I first experienced DMT in the form of ayahuasca, and it felt like this.
As the feeling of my body faded, I went deeper and deeper into my mind. I saw flashes of light and rainbow geometry merging into complex arrangements of animals, plants, and nature.
Well, so that was my experience, but everyone experiences DMT differently. So today we're going to be reading 3 different trip reports from people who smoke DMT. Number 1, my encounter with the Godhead of all consciousness. Over the last 3 years and around 50 DMT trips, I've encountered about 10 entities. 2 of those times, it was most certainly God. Entity encounters are extremely common on DMT. It's one of the hallmarks of that psychedelic substance. I used to be a total atheist. I got into DMT by seeing trip reports of people going to the afterlife and meeting God. I had to try DMT myself for science. On my 4th or 5th time was the first time I encountered just a glimpse of God. I was on a low dose, nowhere near a breakthrough. So if you don't know what a breakthrough is a dose that's high enough where you seem to exit this reality and break through to another reality. I was sitting on my bed, only seeing slight patterns on the walls and carpet. Colors were enhanced, everything looked sharp and high def. A cone of light, like a sun ray, shined down from my ceiling right on top of me, like I was on a stage with a spotlight on me. The color of this light was pure white. White doesn't even describe it. It was pure divinity, absolute white. As the light shone on me, I could feel it wash over my soul. It was like when you feel the warmth from the sun, but it was more than just warm. It was pure love, pure goodness, pure bliss, pure energy. I sat bathing in this beam of God's light for several minutes as the trip wore off. It was just amazing. After that moment, I was no longer an atheist. Wow! To have a single experience change your worldview so profoundly is something that is extremely rare. This is something that seems to be very particularly intense for psychedelic experiences. My next encounter was more than a year later on a breakthrough dose. I encountered this absolutely massive white energy. So large I could not see it all. I got the impression it was infinite. Its shape was similar to a thunderstorm, constantly moving the way storm clouds do. It was not gray though. It was the same pure divine white from before. So something to note is that encountering white light, encountering light beings, things that seem to have their own consciousness or entityness, they have their own independence, and they seem to be composed of light, is something that's frequently experienced on high-dose psychedelics, where you seem to have mystical experiences. And this is something that strangely is in alignment with a lot of the scriptures of the world. What is it? Jesus is the light and the way and the truth. As I moved towards it, I could feel the intelligence of it. Aha! And the emotions of it. So it seems to have this, you experience these things of having their own objective life, their own reality, their own beingness. It was pure goodness and super intelligent. I continued moving towards it until I made physical contact with it. Instantly, I knew everything. I felt everything. Every memory of everything, not just living things, but all things, every bit of the entire universe. I had all the knowledge, all the emotions, all the feelings, all the experiences from everything that ever existed or ever will exist. Wow, we're seeing timelessness, we're seeing totality, infiniteness, classic signs of God encounter. As we separated, I instantly dropped back into my own consciousness and memories. I learned 2 things from this connection. First is that we are all part of the same. We are all part of God. God is the entire universe and everything in it. Second is quite strange. There's no difference between good and evil. God is both, because God is everything. There is no good and evil because it's just something that was invented by our human consciousness. Even though when I met God, I only felt love and goodness, God is both good and evil. Interesting. So another way that people typically characterize mystical experiences or God encounters or any encounters as them being non-dual. What does that mean? We live in a world of duality where there's opposites. There's light and there's dark, there's up and there's down, there's good and there's evil. And there's a sense, people ask, how could God exist if there's evil in the world? One understanding, deeper, more nuanced understanding, the traditional understanding of God, is if God is beyond dualities and God is both beyond good and evil in some strange way. I hope you all enjoyed my report, even after 50 trips and several years. So let's move on to the next one. Number 2. The Kali encounter. My DMT experience meeting the Hindu goddess Kali. Oof. This is a trip report wherein I met the Hindu goddess Kali. Before then, I'd been on a few DMT trips, saw the hyper-spatial palace, met the jesters, but this was the first time I met a Hindu goddess / entity. When I saw her in the trip, I was terrified. As you should be, bro. If you haven't seen what she looks like, Google Ma Kali. All right, let's do it. Ma Kali. Well, this is a great image. This is Kali with the severed head of a man on the left, destroyer weapon that shows she had just decapitated him, her tongue out for some reason, and a necklace of human heads wrapped around her. Great, very scary image. But I quickly realized that if I surrendered to the experience, there was nothing to fear. My preconceived human ego / ideas were holding me back from connecting to the divine. Wow, that's an insight. Once I got over that, I could see the goddess Kali, the female goddess, was the same as the caring mother archetype. After a while, the goddess reached out and touched my third eye, so that would be like right here. In a flash, I remembered all my past lives. I saw the circle of action and reaction and knew that no good deed goes unrewarded. It was just an overwhelming feeling. I had some existential questions as well. I was shown that our universe is just one of the trillions of universes out there. Your soul will be born / reborn as many times as necessary. I saw the multiverse displayed around me like in a planetarium. Wow. I saw trillion-year-old universes being born, populated, and then collapse and get extinguished. It was both humbling and exhilarating. In the meeting with Kali, I learned to forget the dualities that are the bane of our human existence. Again, the dualities, like in the previous one. Dualities of life / death, young / old, love / lust, sacred / profane. These dualities were non-existent in the meeting with the entity. Hope you enjoyed my trip report. Thank you, you did. Now it's interesting that, on one hand, they had the experience of seeing their past lives of reincarnation and the cycles of death and rebirth as reported in a number of different spiritual traditions, as well as more existential exploration of the structure of the universe, that there's multiple universes they seem to experience, and that a lot of these truths are beyond, or Kali and these beings are beyond the dualities of life, death, etc. We're gonna go on to the third one now, tripping with a deceased friend. So today I finally mustered up the courage to head 30 minutes into the middle of nowhere to finally pay respects to my deceased best friend. Her and I were extremely close going into high school and ended up taking each other's virginity. It's one way to bond in high school. She ended up passing due to a car accident while she was tripping on acid, the acid I sold her. I told her not to, but I can never forgive myself for what happened. Do not operate heavy machinery or anything when you're under the influence of anything that can change your perception or your state of consciousness. Psychedelics have tremendous therapeutic potential. You need to respect them and use them safely. I finally arrived at her grave and cried a little bit, then sparked up a blunt and smoked it down with her beautiful soul. Following the blunt, I happen to have 3 50-milligram doses of freebase DMT. So I decided to load a dose up into the yokan to essentially meditate with her spirit, or hoping I would at least. I'd take a full lungful of vapor while sitting next to her grave and hold it in for 15 seconds. The longer you hold it, the more DMT gets in your system. I felt it coming on at hyperspeed, and I was immediately laid back on the pillow in the grass. From there, it was a blissful and so positive, possibly one of the most positive DMT trips I've ever had. The visuals were incredible, but I was thinking a lot of very, very strange thoughts. Thoughts I don't usually think of on DMT, just plain weird. It's almost as if my thoughts weren't from my conscious, in a way. I know it sounds silly, but I feel like I spiritually connected to her soul. She told me she forgave me, and she's in a better place for me to continue on with my life since I only get one. Wow. I've already got the message of love being our only purpose, but her reinforcing the fact made and still makes me want to love more and more. Wow, that's so wholesome. Once I was able to stand back up, I began to cry simply because of how peaceful she is right now and how she made it to the other side safe and sound. I know this sounds like some dumb stuff. Trust me, I'm the most logical, non-paranormal / religious person you could possibly know, along with previously not being spiritual in the slightest. Psychedelics really opened my mind up to spirituality, especially DMT. Well, this seems very beautiful and seems to be a case of DMT having therapeutic benefits. which is he came to terms to accept and come to peace with the death of his friend that he was involved with. Whether or not you understand it as her really forgiving him and having a spiritual connection, what we see is the benefits of the results of doing really deep inner work, which is forgiveness, positivity, lightness, peace, love, and feeling like you just want to love even more. That's amazing. Thank you for taking the time to read. If you did, you're welcome. Let me know if you want to hear the trip report of the time I psychically felt my cat's pain and death at the exact time she passed away. Wow. Hope everyone had a blessed day, friends. Maybe I'll do a video about that. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you're interested in learning more about psychedelics, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.